All right, we're gonna do another little video. We're gonna talk about topwater because that's my favorite thing in the whole world. And we'll start out talking about big lures, big topwater baits. Let's go back about, about 80 years. Talk about a jitterbug, musky jitterbug. That thing's about 4 or 5 inches long. It only weighs an ounce though, which can make it kind of tricky to throw on a windy day. But you really don't want to throw it on a windy day anyway. But it's an oldie, but a goodie. It has caught who knows how many giant fish. One of the big things back a long time ago was to throw one of these at night. But it's proven itself. And if you want to go the other route, we got a little bitty one. Ain't as big as the lip on that one. And they make them all sizes in between. They make jointed jitterbugs too, but I had a bad experience with a jointed jitterbug one time and I'll never throw another. Had a big fish pile on it, and the fish got the back half, I got the front half. So no more jointed jitterbugs. I haven't caught anything on this yet. I haven't really thrown it a lot. If I fished Lanier more, yeah, it'd be great up there, but this cast OG, just from what I've seen of it, it's pretty awesome. This is the 40G, the OG Fat Boy. The action it's got when you rip it and it just dives underwater like that, leaves a big bubble trail and pops back up. Pretty awesome. I'm gonna nail a big one on it, hopefully this year. For some reason, over the last 3 or 4 years, it seems like we've just about jumped from winter straight into summer. We haven't had much of a spring, or at least I haven't, much of a topwater bite. The window has not been very big. And it's just, topwater the last several years has not been good for me at all. I keep going and I keep trying, but it has not been like years past. But I'm going to keep trying because I love it. King Kong, this is the 6-incher. I just don't have the 8-incher with me, but a great weight bait. I have caught some big ones on this. Another thing about topwater, once the water temperature gets below 60, I'm not much of a topwater guy. I mean, I know you'll catch one every now and then, but most guys that fish are like I used to be, and you had limited fishing time. You fished on the weekends, you fished on your vacation days, you fished on holidays sometimes if you were lucky, but your time was limited, so you just basically want to play the percentages. I mean, unless you're hunting for big fish, and that's a whole other ball game. But most guys want to go catch fish, so you go with your higher percentage options. And fishing topwater below 60 degrees is not a high percentage option. This thing, crazy looking thing, is called a headbanger. It's got this minnow type body, and it's got this lip thing that you attach to it, this concave thing that you attach to it, and it gives us this crazy skittering action across top of the water. I hadn't really used it a lot. I've tried it a little bit, hadn't had any luck, but I've got faith in it. This thing called a SS Shad, I bought by accident. I thought it was a crankbait. It's not. It's a wake bait. So it just right there on the surface, but it's got crazy action. I've got high hopes for this one too. It's more of a pre-spawn thing, I think, better. Might be a good topwater bait. I'm going to try it some. I've got some places in mind to try it. It's just, King Kong was just doing such a great job for me this spring, I couldn't put it down. All right, let's talk about buzz baits. I made this one. The wire came straight out to begin with. I bent it up at a 45, then straightened it back out. Lets the body kind of get down in the water, but the propeller's still up on top. Trailer hook, always. This little thing right here, this tab, you get a hole punch. You punch them out of a coffee can lid or whatever. You feed it over the barb, and your trailer hook cannot come off that way. A couple little tweaks I did to a buzz bait. I like this particular blade. The shaft goes over on top of the body, on the blade on one side and down on the other side. I take the rivet, I crimp it down, where it doesn't turn. I bend this top of the rivet out here, the head of the rivet, till it's got just a little bit of cup to it, where after you get it broke in good, it'll squeak. I like that. I also sometimes will put a little extra bend in this cup right here to cup a little more water. Just a couple little tweaks I do. This is a great little buzz bait too, little triple wing. I think Norman made it. I caught my biggest buzzbait bass ever on this. And then you have this, believe it or not, it'll catch fish. All right, so we can also talk about walking baits. My favorite spook, my favorite lure of all time. I don't catch the most fish on it of all, but it is my favorite lure of all time. I learned how to fish this thing about 40 years ago in a big old mine quarry pit that was just like 80 feet deep straight off the bank. It was just, they wouldn't let us put a boat in it, so we had to fish it off the bank. But, you know, jigs, something like it. You'll catch spinnerbait fish every now and then, but this thing here was so much fun because you could call them up out of that clear water. And I think these fish had hardly ever been fished for before. But I caught this, where I learned to fish this thing, it was incredible. And I got addicted to it. And this is the big one, this is the smaller one, Super Spook Junior. A little different color. Clear, by the way. I don't know what it is about clear lures sometimes. I think the motion, but they don't see anything, but they know there's a disturbance there, and I think they get little refractions of the light through the body every now and then, and I think it just triggers them, and they'll just come up and just annihilate it. This is the clear one that I did a little work on. Put a little prism tape on the sides of it, a little red hook. It can be deadly. This is another walking style bait. I think it's a Livingston. Yeah, I think they call it a sexy dog. I don't know. It might be a Strike King. I don't know. But great bait. And while I'm at it, see that oval split ring on there? You always want to use a split ring or a dual lock snap on a walking bait, or a lot of glide baits really, because if you tie them straight to the lure, it can choke the action down. Dual lock snap looks like this. You can bend that little piece sticking up, and once you get it on there, you can take pliers and bend that down a little bit. This other little end sticking up right here, you can flatten it down and just make it a permanent part of the bait. But you always want to use something like that on a walking type bait, or like I say, a lot of glide baits. My glurk, I call it. I put a big heavy split ring on my glurks to give it more action. But not doing it, you can just choke the life out of these lures a little bit. And sometimes it'll just make them harder to walk. And it's hard for a lot of people to walk a bait anyway. So anyway, that's my thing on walking baits. Chug type baits, old striper delight, pretty deadly. Then you got your chug type, your chuggers, chug bug. I love a chug bug. Popar, clear popar, and Zell rolling popar. But the chug bug is awesome, and this is the big chug bug. Frogs, all kinds of frogs. They got a place. So they're kind of, just pretty self-explanatory. Some of them have a tendency to leak, take on water, so you got to squeeze water out every now and then. Some guys will take the hooks and bend them up just a little bit, so so you get a little better angle on your hook set, because they're all kind of pointed down. So it's something to think about. Okay. Oh, another walking bait. Spitting image. Whopper floppers. Yeah. Awesome. I was not a fan when they first come out. I thought just another gimmick. But they're pretty handy. They're great for people that have trouble handling a buzz bait. You throw it out, you let it hit the water, and it sinks, and you whine and trying to get it back up on top. You don't have to worry about that with a plopper or a chop boat or whatever. Throw it out, and like I say, it's great for novices, amateurs. I use them a lot. I mean, because they're pretty aerodynamic. You can throw them a freaking mile. Throwing them on braid, you get a good hook set. They will, you know, they're easier to deal with than a buzzbait. You don't ever want to throw one of these around wood because it won't make it past a piece of wood, especially wood that's topped out, you know, right at about that far below the surface. It'll never make it over. Get hung every time. So don't ever throw one of these around wood someplace where you can't get to it and get it, or you'll be leaving it there unless you want to go swimming. But all different sizes, shades, clear ones, yeah, translucent. I sprayed these with a little bit of iridescent spray paint. They'll catch fish. I've had to stop this so many times I forgot where I am. Cordell Clear Crazy Shad. Oldie, but a goodie. It's got a lot of fish on this at Altoona. A little clear one with a little blue nose, sort of. Floating rattle traps. A lot of people didn't know there was such a thing, but there is, and they float. What else have we got? I think I pretty much covered it. But anyway, those are my topwater faves, and a few little tricks and tweaks I do to use them. So take from it what you will. All right, one more thing we got to talk about. The old Rapala minnow. Been around 50 years. Used to be so rare that marinas and tackle shops actually rented them out to anglers. And I suspect there were a lot of anglers that wanted them so bad that they just, when time came to turn them back in, they say they lost them just so they could keep them. But been around a long time, caught a lot of big fish. The white stripe on the back, I saw an article in a Bassmaster magazine about 40 years ago about some guy up north, Connecticut or someplace like that, New Hampshire, and on a real dark, calm day in dark water, with this black back, you can actually lose track of this thing and not have a clue where it is. And I have actually seen myself, a bass, take one of these off the surface without even making a ripple. So all it is just a little visual aid to you know, to help keep track of it. And I took that to heart, and all of my Rapalas have white places on the back. Actually, I've done that to some of my jitterbugs too. But like I say, I forgot and left this old Rapala off the video, so I want to talk about that before I close this thing out.